It's quite interesting if you start involving millennials and you start thinking things like crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and you throw a topic like microinsurance in there. Can you imagine what could really, it spell out for disruption? We've been doing some work with the World Bank in really destitute countries in terms of CGAP, closing the gap of the poor, where microinsurance is a necessity, but affordability is almost non-existent. I'm talking about premiums of 120 Rand equivalent per year, and they have to take a microloan just to finance that. And what we've learned there is you have to literally come from a totally different perspective. It's almost as if your old industry sort of background is a legacy that will prohibit you to actually think fresh and totally innovative. And I think millennials bring that, and that sort of discussion is very good. And I hope to see more of that, in South Africa with our social challenges. Can you imagine if we can really have a good, proper, innovative sort of microinsurance, millennial type, different insurance dispensation? We could solve a lot of social problems. I think one of the biggest mistakes that one can make is just to jump into technology just because everyone does. It's almost like a Jonas's effect. You need to do it for the right reasons. You need to understand your market, and for that reason, customer experience to me is the sort of golden thread right through everything. The famous Steve Jobs said, you start with customer experience and you design backwards from that to the product. So I want to use that same quote. If you want to digitally disrupt and you want to really, get to the sort of fourth industrial revolution, you need to start with customer experience and work backwards. Then I think you would do it right. Otherwise, I think you could be in for a bit of a risk and a massive capital outlay that might not be working for you. The reality is customers are now telling the industry what they want. And I think the power shift is more real than I think the industry might be admitting. I'm talking about, short-term insurance clients saying, why can I not do this and this and that? And it's always been thrown with a book. It is policy, it's rules, it's regulation. Whereas if the same topic as just now about innovation and millennial type thinking. So from a SACSI point of view, what we find is that customers are saying the right to play is a basic good product quality. You don't come with an inferior product. Second, basic good service, and then only do we start talking. And that is where customer experience comes in, is where you start providing a product that is excellent, always in mind with the customer sort of needs. It's not something that you think is good because the actuary and the finance guys did the sums and it sounds good. It's not necessarily going to sell. Customers will determine what will go or not. That is a very interesting question, because I believe, as I previously said, customer experience is that golden thread. If you think, why do we need TCF? Why do we need to actually say to customers, we treat you fairly? It's because if we don't, and any customer now with a bit of social media savvy can start a flame campaign, and we take the sort of examples in the world where social media has been used against big brands, and you see, for instance, what's been happening to Volkswagen in terms of the emissions. We see currently what's happening with Ford. You are not protected, and the fact that your customer experience is providing you with a guaranteed sort of safeguard on corporate reputation means that, let's translate it back. We don't start with TCF and governance and compliance and risk. We should start with the market. It's that old notion. The customer is still king. Customer is still the one that actually will determine what you should be selling and what you should be providing to them as service. So what we found is that TCF, and the industry admits that, is that they're currently primarily looking at a tick box sort of compliance perspective. But who of them are actually really, really concerned about what the market is saying? So what we have found is in the last 5 years that we've been doing the SACSI, both on the life industry as well as in the short-term industry. We've been tracking customer satisfaction index, and we've been tracking the TCF pillars. and they almost dance in a perfect unison. The companies with great customer satisfaction have great fairness. The companies with poor customer satisfaction are perceived to be unfair. And that in itself tells me that I think the fairness concept is in the eye of the beholder. That is the customer. Interesting fact is that 1% customer satisfaction improvement can yield the same as a 10% cost saving. So everyone is talking, we're not making money. We've got a 2% margin. And they go on cost containment drives, but it's actually quite right in front of them. Just serve your customer better, and it will yield you 10% saving already. South Africa is a very unique country because we've got a massive diversity of customer expectations. We've got your entry-level market that sometimes are so destitute for just a basic product delivery. And, let's talk banking, let's talk basic levels of insurance. Where, how many cars on this road today in South Africa is uninsured? And why? Is it affordability? Is it that we're not having the right products for that company? Or for that customer? And I think that's where we might be going wrong, and maybe just approach it from a total different perspective, is to really go and understand the customer in a different way. And there's some good examples in industry where there's some innovative new products that's coming along. And I think that is very encouraging for me. So we to actually say, well, we customer experience experts, and we want to take hands with the industry and say, let's develop this industry. It is a massive industry. This is one of the biggest conferences that we've been to on the calendar. And I think it's an industry that's got a right to play and a very specific contribution in the South African economy. One of the things, being a newbie, that a lot of people told me, and this might be a very sensitive topic, but it's a sensitive topic to the positive. A lot of people said to me 3 years ago, the sort of average demography of this conference was 50 plus male white. Whereas we've seen a new sort of demography emerging, and that's very encouraging. So we're saying that there's a market that's been untapped, that's a market that's been ignored. We're talking about your black upcoming diamonds. We're talking about your entry-level black yuppie. That comes with a principle that they haven't been sort of grown up. They haven't grown up with the traditional life insurance and short-term insurance that we might have in the white community. And I think we need to, again, go back to that basic segments and ask, really go and determine what are those products that we need. And there's a couple of companies that we see are doing it. And I want to be naughty enough and saying, watch the space. They're going to be the next generation companies.